Test, test, test. Okay, back again in another live stream, broadcast, or podcast, or whatever that is. So basically, I got another unintentional free time, but I tried to do a good behavior recording as usual first for around almost half an hour because basically I already tried to record this section before because yeah, I basically tried to read it every week if possible, but yeah, it's basically pretty long, so that's the reason why I only try to record it in the previous time to make it more motivated. So basically in the previous time I basically try to separate it into several section, into several recording, and right now I only try to do it on two parts. So basically, it's half of the previous trial. So that's the reason why I definitely need to make it different every time that I already try to do the same thing in order to not unintentionally overwrite the files if it is already exists, even though that it is still basically able to keep both files. But yeah, I basically used to do some certain mistakes, especially when it comes to folder when trying to move, and then I basically lost any kind of my history in my previous main job of task, which is I basically pretty sad because yeah, during that time I was at the time, the exact time before the pandemic started, and I was basically still attending certain events that I basically wanted to join for quite a while, even though I basically almost one of the oldest participants but during that time. But it's okay since it was quite memorable, especially when it is exactly takes part before the pandemic. So that's the reason why the event was actually an earlier than it used to be, and it is actually the first time that I got a free hotel, perhaps. Even though I basically not really like, to be honest, sleeping in sleeping with another person or the person that you just met because it's just pretty weird, and that's the reason why I don't really like to go some sort of family gathering the in my current main job of tasks recently because I don't really like to do that kind of things, especially when it is not as comfortable as I usually like it when the hotel is actually in the middle of the city. So that's the reason why when it comes to a remote area outside the city, it's probably not really comfortable for me. So yeah, what else did I basically want to talk about? So it's basically getting the crease on my current main job of tasks in terms of the people, which is I just don't know whether how long that I basically can keep up, but at some point it's actually make the recent policy that I basically need to attend on site would probably delay it for until I don't know, several months ahead. That still until the team was already stable, perhaps, or basically I just don't, or basically it will never be happen in order to keep more than half of the people outside the city that currently work outside the city, which is definitely a backfire for them. So that's the reason why. And basically, I will just try to do my goal later this year's, even though I don't know whether it is gonna be finally going to be like what I expected, because for some reason the recent policy is definitely messing up with my goal that I basically wanted to achieve at the end of this year. So that's the reason why, in terms of personal productivity, of course. So, and what else did I basically want to talk about? So, but at some point, I basically don't want to spend a lot of money. But at certain point, if I basically just try to save money over and over, and I basically never really enjoy those money, and basically I will not have a sufficient motivation in order to make more productivity things. So that's a little bit hard. So because yeah, at some point, if you talk about the post-pandemic economy, it seems to be pretty scary to spend a lot of money, especially when you're still in an uncertainty condition. I don't know, because yeah, many people are currently struggling in terms of keeping their business. So at some point, the economic growth are actually decreased at certain factors, or at certain sectors. It's not factors, certain factors, at the same time it was growing at several factors, just like during the pandemic, obviously, when almost all of the medicine in the medical sectors are actually growing. And right now they definitely struggle because many people already no longer believe there is still a pandemic. So that's the reason why basically people still get sick, obviously. But yeah, in terms of the test for the pandemic, is definitely no longer a profitable things, because yeah, I still remember during the pandemic, the place for testing the virus is actually as big as a car showroom, which is a luxury car showroom previously. But since during the pandemic, probably there is no people buying a luxury cars, perhaps. So that's the reason why they try to run the place for do the virus testing. So that's the reason why right now it's no longer available, obviously, because there's no more people lining up just for testing, and people just try to wait until they finally cure. Even though, if you talk about the mutation of the virus, is basically still keep increasing into more and more, I don't know, maybe vulnerables, I don't know, until there is more little. I just don't get it, because at some point people always, some people also thinks that it was basically um, I don't know, it's a conspiracy all this time by the big pharmacy company in the world. Even though yeah, it may be happen if they basically want to depopulate this world, because yeah, of people population is actually growing. There's more a bad effect rather than a good effect. So because the natural resources is definitely not sufficient to cater all of the peoples that currently live in this world. So that's the reason why many people still live in poverty. So yeah, that's pretty sad to see those kind of things, and for some reason, seeing those many unfortunate people around us is basically makes you think that you just need to be grateful for what we are currently had right now. But especially when I basically try to suppress any kind of my desire of wasting something into wasting money into an unnecessary things, because yeah, through money you basically can bring other people happier than they used to be. But yeah, we at some point we definitely need to make more money in order to make more people happy. But yeah, it's just so hard, especially right now, because every competition is definitely getting harder than it used to be. Just like seeing most of my videos is basically didn't have any views, because probably my kind of video is also not really interested. Perhaps, I don't know. Maybe later I will try to do another things, another content that hopefully more interesting than what I used to make previously. So that is actually one of my goal at the end of this year. Usually goals is actually set at the beginning of the year, but right now I basically try to set in the middle of the year for the end of the year, because yeah, I basically wanted to fulfill those kind of thing as soon as possible, but I basically need to wait at certain things in order to make me more, I don't know, this is probably a little bit similar, but I don't know, because yeah, there are basically some blockers, obviously, that it's still pretty much need to wait. So that's the reason why I basically try to wait it either, even though it's basically almost my birthday again, which is, I don't know, when seeing most of your lives are pretty much not really goes the way that you are expected, but yeah, at least I'm still able to do something different in the future. So yeah, hopefully it will finally goes well. And basically my iPhone battery is still in 85%, but I'm not sure whether I basically able to create the pre-recorded Animoji that still have a lot to do. Probably I don't know whether the leftovers pre-recorded Animoji will be done when I finally got to focus on my personal productivity, or is it gonna be before that? So I basically still have time to basically finish it before I basically start a whole new different content. So, and what else? So what else? So, yeah. So it's already 13 minutes of broadcast as well, because yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about, even though yesterday I basically able to create this content, but yeah, at some point I basically realize many things, many lessons learned, even though it basically just a glimpse that you suddenly see in your life, but yeah, it's basically still a meaningful lesson that basically can change your life into a better person. So basically, if you talk about the pre-recorded Animoji that's already prepared, so only need to be processed and upload, it's still technically pretty lazy to do that, because yeah, if you talk about my current MacBook Air middle 2013, I've just no longer wanted to open the iMovie, which definitely gonna be very heavy, because yeah, I basically already a while to not moving any kind of data anymore to external drive to clear up the space for the swap, for the additional random access memory, and I basically wanted to do it on the newer MacBook Pro that I got, even though it's basically already started to deprecate throughout the time, because yeah, the technology is basically try to be faster every year, but even though we basically don't really need those kind of speed unless they are trying to slow down for the old devices, because they already think that it should be deprecated, that which is pretty annoying. So that's the reason why at some point I don't want to update into the latest operating system, because I always think that it is basically slow you down, unless it is actually the only one that I currently had right now. So in order to be able to use all the time, or use with the latest technology, you basically need to update into the latest operating system, even though it's definitely gonna be heavier than it used to be. So that's the reason why. And it actually happens before on the iPhone. I don't know whether it is actually happens also in the Mac. So many users is basically complain, and they basically try to fix in the next of those heavy release, but after that they basically never give update to those old iPhone users anymore, because yeah, they prefer to deprecate the updates instead of trying to maintain updating it over and over again, which may cause a heavy update again. So that's the reason why. It's already 16 minutes and my iPhone is definitely decreasing all the time, so the previous good behavior recording is definitely already almost half an hour, so I basically already create a content this day almost an hour. But I definitely, even though I'm still not getting interrupted, but yeah, I basically need to do things that I must do first, perhaps, or just take a rest for a while, because I basically fall asleep before I basically try to do this personal productivity content. So because at some point when the times come, it's just you eventually lazy, but when you basically didn't have the time to do so, you basically wanted to do it. So yeah, that's pretty much a human nature that pretty hard to prevent. So I think this is already one of the longest broadcasts that I basically tried to create lately, even though not definitely not the longest, because I think the longest is around almost half an hour if I'm not mistaken. So I think I will try to end this stream, because I wanted to charge my phone. I guess if I still have some free time, I probably will try to prepare the native language podcast as usual, just to make, just to express something that I basically talk similarly like in this podcast, but in my own native language. So okay, I think that's